This is Stefan Cocking, producer of The Mole Man Show, and for some reason, you are listening to this boner-taming goblin farmer, Adam Higgins, on the Surprise Motherfucker Network.
This week on episode 105, I know I promised an Epic Film Guys interview, but schedules just can be complicated at times. Instead, I've got a very news-heavy episode with guest spots from Mike Jolitz and a whole lot of people who think YouTube will make you a doctor. I'm continuing my tour of the live stream for the Cure guest list with this week's recommended listening feature, We Watched a Thing. And of course, because it's just starting to warm up out there, I've got a little home story about the perils of living in the desert.
Beginning ODO podcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the ODO podcast, where normal is not my specialty. If you're new to the show, every week-ish, I run through some personal stories and rants and ramblings. I make fun of some weird stuff from the news, and I give you a podcast recommendation that I think you should check out, because I just like talking. Now, what can I say? I can just go on and on. Thank you so much for tuning in and downloading my oddness into your ears this fine day or evening or whatever. What is it they say on the feed? Good generic time of the day to you. So, I guess I should mention off the top, like I said at the beginning, no Epic Film Guys guest spot this week. The long story short, it was just a lot of communication missteps between Nick and myself, and missing messages, and he messed up his back and was kind of bedridden for a while, and it just kind of made it where we just couldn't get things kind of lined up. He messed up his back and was kind of stuck in bed, and it was just kind of it just wasn't going to happen when we originally planned. All that being said, we're trying to get it done this upcoming weekend, as next week's episode is the last show before the live stream for The Cure. Again, that's the 18th, 19th, and 20th. And if you're interested in checking me out on there, I am going to be on at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's about 10 Arizona or Pacific time, depending on where you are. But again, 1 p.m. American Eastern Standard or Daylight Time, whatever the hell. Arizona doesn't change time zones. It throws me off in the summer. But go to livestreamforthecure.com to make an early donation or to get the links to where the stream's going to be going up. Again, that is going on from May 18th through the 20th, 30 hours of live streams. I don't know how many podcasters. I haven't been able to cover everybody. All coming together to raise money to fight cancer. Which, if you've listened to the most recent episode, and I can't even say last week's show because I seriously dropped it on Monday. I guess I should address that whole thing. So if you listen to episode 104, which is entirely possible you haven't yet, because it only came out 2 days ago. And primarily the reason for that was that I wasn't sure if I was going to release it. I was, and I say in that episode that basically the news that hit last week it was just kind of a sad week. And between just family stuff and busy around the house stuff, and that made me late. That made recording late. But then the news about Perry from Hello Life and the Pod stuff, and the news from Heather from Sunshine and Power Cuts, it really just my friends are hurting. And I kind of really felt I was really kind of in a funk. And I recorded that episode and had it ready to go on Friday. And I really just sat on it. I was literally sitting there. All I had to do was push publish. And I didn't. And I sat on it because I was like, do I want to do it? Do I want to, even it's like, this is, I don't know. And so I eventually, I sat down on Monday night and was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So I sat down on my computer Monday night and finished up the links and all that stuff and posted it all up. And the feedback has been great. And I think it's just one of those when I stop being a clown and start opening up a little more, and be more emotional about stuff, then I get good feedback. But I'm supposed to be the clown. But that's just, so that's that. And that's why you suddenly have 2 shows if you're subscribed, which you should absolutely subscribe, go to odddeadoutpodcast.com and right there at the top, all the happy links for Apple Podcast and Google Play and all that happy fun stuff. Click one of those things and subscribe if you haven't already, because you're awesome that way. You've already listened this far. Hell, why not subscribe? But if that's why you suddenly got 2 shows, suddenly episode 104 and 105 are 2 days apart just because I wasn't sure. And thank you to Lisa from I Shake My Head and to Heather for the feedback and on that episode. And they got, it was basically out long enough for them to listen to it. and I was already I pushed publish and then they were like, wow, this is a really great, really great show. So thank you, ladies. You're awesome. I love you. But okay, I'm so off track from what I said I was going to talk about today, which, my brain. But trying to get back on track, in the meantime, since, all of that and everything last week, I've kind of gotten back. I'm pretty much got my brain back together. I'm not going to say I'm completely back together because I'm mildly insane anyway, but back to normal life. The boys are back in school. The teacher strike is over. Back to normal routines. And they went back to school on Friday. That was really dumb. They were out of school from the previous Thursday all the way through this last Thursday. And then they went back to school on Friday for one stupid day last week, which is just kind of dumb. But either way, Monday, we're back to normal weekly routine on Monday. And like I said, it's warming up. And I've talked before about, the issues with when you live in the desert, there's critters. And so we had a run-in with a particularly dangerous type of critter. And if you've seen the episode artwork, I think you can guess what it is. My 4-year-old little bug stepped on a scorpion. And I've never reacted so quickly and so calmly in all of my life. We literally had just gotten home from picking up the older boys from school. And long story short, I told him to pick up his toys. He's, walking around the living room with his little box of Legos and picking up all the crap that I told him to pick up before we left. And then I just hear him scream. And I hear him drop the box of Legos. And he is screaming at the top of his lungs. And I'm like, I don't know what it is. I don't know. But I pick him up. And he's grabbing at his foot. And he's freaking out, And imagine a 4-year-old screaming. That's basically panic, freaked out, scared, pain. You don't know if it's a pain scream, a scared scream, I don't know what just happened, absolutely, there's a strong chance of, hey, he just stepped on a thorn. Why? Because the animals tracked him in. Our dog brings in the goat head thorns all the time. They may track them in going out to the yard. It happens. So it's entirely possible he just stepped on a thorn, and come on, he's 4 years old. He steps on a thorn, he's going to scream. I go over to the Lego box. I'm like, okay, what did you step on? And right there, right next to the Lego box, full-size adult scorpion. And promptly stomp a mud hole into that little guy. Now, and at this point, I've already put Bug up on the table because I'm like, okay, I'm trying to see what is it, and and then I go back and check and find the scorpion and stomp the scorpion, and then promptly, because those things are damn tanks, and you never quite know if they're dead unless they're, smashed into pieces. I have the other boys give me the broom. I was like, I'm right on it. I'm like, no, give me the broom, give me the broom, give me the broom. I need the broom, I need the dustpan, and I broom and dustpan and haul his ass out to the dumpster in the garage. I assume all scorpions are male, even though that's, not biologically possible. Whatever the case may be, if I stomped him to death, he is a he. Why? Because they're evil little demon bugs. Anyway. So, Bug is screaming his head off, and I'm oddly, minus the, okay, stomp a mud hole in the scorpion, and quickly, get this thing removed from the area. I basically grab, I was like, okay, I've established that he stepped on a scorpion. Do I know if it stung him? Do I know if it just pinched him? I know nothing. All I know is that I even think that he may have dropped the Lego box on the scorpion because it didn't move. It laid there. And so he could have very possibly stomped it himself and killed it. He could have dropped the Lego box on it and killed it. I don't know, but I squashed it into oblivion. But I don't know if it actually stung him, if maybe a pincher just got him or whatever. All I know is he's grabbing his foot and screaming his head off. So I grab an ice pack, throw an ice pack on his foot, and then grab the bottle of children's Motrin. Here, take the Motrin. Why? This is gonna hurt. Because scorpion stings hurt like a son of a bitch. It's known to be, it's just incredibly painful. And that's kind of the biggest thing. And I'm not gonna downplay this. The Arizona bark scorpion is actually the most deadly scorpion in North America. It is the only scorpion that could theoretically kill a large animal. Like if one of our animals got stung by a scorpion, it's entirely possible that we could lose them. That being said, unless the difference between Bug and Sam getting stung by a scorpion. If Sam got stung by a scorpion, he'd have gone to the ER. I'd have rushed him to the ER. And Sam is 2. Bug getting stung by a scorpion. He's 4.5. This is going to hurt a lot, but I'm going to treat this at home right now. It's like ice pack on his foot, within, a minute and a half. He had an ice pack on his foot and he had a shot of Motrin, and then he had a shot of Benadryl. And basically because a similar reaction with if you've never been stung by a scorpion. Oddly enough, I never have, but I've had to do I've out of being precautionary dad, and we see them and they get into the house. So I kind of looked into it and was like, okay, Benadryl, Motrin for pain, Benadryl for possible inflammation, because you can be allergic to these stings. And that's where, the majority of really bad cases are if you happen to be allergic. And so I was kind of cautious and I was like, all right, let's make sure that, keep everything as contained as possible. And in my experience, things like bee stings and scorpion stings and other stings like that, Benadryl is helpful. It's not a be all end all, but because it does have, you do get the inflammation and the swelling and a lot of the same reactions that an allergic reaction to a thing. Some Benadryl will help. And so again, shot of because he's small, small shot of Benadryl, small shot of Motrin for pain, and an ice pack and rotating ice packs. We were keeping that foot numb as shit. And, probably about, again, 4-year-old screaming his head off the whole time because, oh my God, Dad, it hurts. Yes, I understand it hurts, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to keep hurting until that Motrin kicks in full blast and until that Benadryl kicks in full blast. Because scorpion stings hurt. But we never were able to actually identify if he was ever actually stung. Because, again, I gave him the meds immediately. It never had a chance to swell up. And we never did see a puncture spot. We identified where he said, this is where it was, this is the part, and it was basically like on the side of his foot, like on the side of his pinky toe. And so I'm fairly sure because it's the side of his toe that he probably like stepped on the scorpion tail curl and just popped him right in the side of the foot. But, minus his, pinky toes kind of look puffy anyway. It's hard to tell unless it, swole up to like the size of one of his other toes. But it didn't look like it was excessively swollen. Didn't look any redder than you can imagine, having had ice on it for for like probably an hour. He had ice on his toe. And, he calmed down. Obviously, once the meds kicked in, he calmed down a bit. He still was saying it hurt, and he still was, not too keen on walking. But I'm surprised that I was so calm, that I remained calm and collected. And I think it's just from the knowing that it's treatable at home. And especially a lot of my friends are like, oh yeah, I've been stung by scorpions all the time. Oh, I don't deal with them. And I've kind of got a built-in aversion to scorpions because my oldest sister was stung by a scorpion probably when she was around I think she was around Sam's age. She was probably like 2 or 3. And it was one of those cases where like she stepped on a scorpion that blended in with the front doormat and like it ran off somewhere. They, rush her off to the hospital. Dad finds a scorpion. They treat her and all that stuff, but it instilled a lifelong, paralyzing fear of scorpions in my sister, who is going on 40 now, still terrified of scorpions. I've never seen anybody afraid of anything in the world as much as when there's a scorpion in the room near my sister. And that sort of fear from her kind of bled over into the rest of us. Because this basically happened before any of the rest of us were born. And so we all grew up with this sort of, scorpion fear adjacent. I don't know how you'd say it. But because of what happened to her, we all kind of grew up with this, like, probably more afraid of scorpions than is necessarily justifiable. But, all that said, I stayed oddly calm and I kept it together. And it was really funny because as soon as that happened, like, we don't wear, except for me, because I like my feet being I like the comfort of wearing shoes. I wear shoes around the house because I don't care. The boys typically don't. And that's why he got stung, because he's barefoot. Immediately, the most adorable and the funniest, thing, Sam, 2-year-old Sam, as soon as he sees Buggy stepped on something and it hurt his foot, he understands scorpions are bad. Which is really weird because he's never really seen one. But Sam understands scorpions are bad. Buggy stepped on a scorpion. I don't want to touch the floor. Sam went off and put his shoes on. I'm sitting here, trying to calm Bug down, and in comes Sam wearing his Crocs. I'm like, really? And then the older boys have been they've been sitting there, like they're still trying to do their homework. And because this all happened during homework time after school. I just told them, like, you know what, guys? I'm not going to fault you for being freaked out and wanting to put your shoes on. I seriously doubt there's another scorpion in the kitchen right now. But fine, if you want to put your shoes on, go ahead. But it was just so funny that, like, of all people, that Sam came around the corner with his put on his shoes. Like, nope, I'm not going anywhere without my shoes right now. Even though, we see them, especially because it's warming up. And I they always like, oh, weather's warming up, watch out for scorpions. I'm like, oh, the weather's cooling down, watch out for scorpions. I'm like, why? Because in the summer months, they're waking up, they're coming out of mild hibernation, and they're coming out in the summer because it's just active season. And what? It's a desert bug. So they're much more active in the summer. You're going to see them around your house. Well, in the wintertime, they're looking for somewhere warm because it's cold outside. So what do? They come into your house. So I don't understand it's summer. Look out for scorpions. You got to look for them year round. If it's cold, they come into your house for warmth. If it's warm, they come into your house because they're hunting. Either way, they're going to fucking be in your house. It sucks. But yeah, I'm surprised after this long. This is the first time anybody's been stung. And again, don't even know if he was stung. I'm pretty sure he was stung. All I know is he stepped on the thing. But he's okay. My wife freaked the fuck out. I waited until everything was over and he was calm before I let her know. And I texted her. I was like, first thing I say, don't freak out. One big text, not like a don't freak out send. It was like, don't freak out, but bug was stung by a scorpion. He's already had this meds. He's already had, he's had ice pack on him. I put it all in one message so that, yes, the first thing she sees is don't freak out, but it's all there. Not one of those, I'm going to send one message, don't freak out. So in the meantime, she's freaking out waiting for whatever the fuck is coming on. No, I threw it all at her. One quick shot. It's like, here's the situation. Exactly. He's okay. Everything's fine. He's calmed down. We're good. So, yeah. But, of course she freaked out. And she freaked out until she got home. And when she got home, he started screaming and crying and more like, he hadn't cried about it. He'd pretty much calmed down for like a half an hour by that point, but it was more of the, Mommy, I got stung by a scorpion. Or he keeps saying, I got bit by a scorpion. Like, okay, so he's it was more of a mommy's home. I have to freak out to mommy now. But yeah, so the moral of the story is desert life wants to kill you. I kind of look at Arizona like Australia light. Seems like everything in Australia wants to kill you, and almost everything in Arizona can try to kill you. Not nearly as bad. Like, we've got deadly spiders and scorpions and plants and all this craziness, and there's way more dangerous stuff in Arizona than in other states. But relatively speaking, it's Australia light. But enough of that. I've got so much news. I went on so long for so much other stuff. So I'm going to take a quick promo break, and I will be right back with a very full news segment.
I'm wrong, you're wrong. Everybody sing this song. Talk it on over and we'll find out who's right.
Check out Who's Right with Doug and Anthony. We got it.
Just days before an SUV carrying a family of 8 plummeted from a cliff in Northern California. This is something I can rally around, because I am anti-dead hooker. I am.
Me too.
If
I like my hookers alive. That sounds weird, doesn't it?
I don't want to edit this. If you want to edit this shit, then go ahead. But just take out the shit that will get me fired.
If I were to say that word, that would be what our podcast would be known for. We've been doing this for 70 episodes. That'd be it. We are racist, and you would be dragged right down with me.
I would be there fighting the power, man. I would prove the critics wrong and catch the jungle fever.
From that logic, if you follow that out, I can make fun of mentally handicapped people all I want, as long as I don't call them a certain word.
Right.
That's not the
no, not right.
That's not the lesson that I would teach my kids. Just don't make fun of mentally handicapped people. I think you pretty much got the gist of it. You're a shitbag.
Check out Who's Right at who'srightpodcast.com.
I'm wrong, you're wrong. Everybody sing this song. Talk it on over and we'll find out who's right.
Let's jump over to Mike Jolitz in the surprise motherfucker news desk for some headlines.
The Boy Scouts of America are changing their name. The new name is going to be Fuck It. Just join us. Turns out Trump paid back his attorney the hush money paid to Stormy Daniels. Who cares? God. Rapper I've never heard of, Jules Santana, tried to bring a loaded handgun onto a plane. What a dumbass. President of France called the Australian Prime Minister's wife delicious. What? How does he know how she tastes? Bill Cosby and Roman Polanski have been expelled from the Film Academy. Yeah, that'll teach him. Conan O'Brien's late night show on TBS is getting a little smaller. It's going to go from 60 minutes down to 30 minutes. I don't really care either way. Never was a fan and watched maybe 2 shows. The Cleveland Clowns are apparently looking into getting a new stadium in the near future. The fuck? Hey, how about winning some games first? Just a thought. You could try that, Or you could try harder. Stormy Daniels was on Saturday Night Live last weekend. 14 people got herpes. And finally in the headlines, Avengers Infinity War has already made $1 billion. Holy shit. It only took 11 days. That's a new record. Damn. Alrighty guys, let's go roll right into some news. A man in Great Britain got mauled by a bear when he tried to take a selfie with a bear. That's natural selection right there, folks. Yeah. Keep cutting out the stupid ones. Both doctors for Trump and Mike Pence have resigned or were fired. I hear Conrad Murray's looking for new clients. Just saying. Caitlyn Jenner is going to give a speech in the UK soon. She is going to discuss diversity and how to cut off your willy to avoid going to jail. In case you didn't know, May is Masturbation Month. So celebrate often and as much as you can. And finally in the news, the Boston Bruins have a licker on their team. Yeah, Brad Marchand has been told to stop licking other players' faces. Ew. The guy's Canadian. Maybe it's just friendly for him. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. I've been Mike Jolitz. No, I still am Mike Jolitz. Anyway, back to the Odd Dad Out Show. Later, guys.
Bullshit from the news.
Alright, I'm going to try and run through these pretty quick today because I got a bunch of them. UK schools removing analog clocks because their students can't read them. Oh, wow. English schools have begun removing analog clocks from classrooms because the students can't read them. The prevalence of time in a digital format has today's generation unable to read time in an analog format. Seriously, people, I learned that shit in kindergarten. I will admit, if I see a clock that doesn't have the numbers on the face, takes me longer to read the thing. Or if you get one of those asshole clocks that doesn't even have the notches on it, fuck those guys. But really, is it so damn hard to read a clock? I mean, my third grader can read a fucking clock. It takes him a bit more because, again, everything's digital. But you know what? It helps to know how to read a fucking clock. Really. And I'm not going to say I'm not guilty of relying on my phone because, I've been in buildings for work where I've got to sign in the time and there's a big wall clock up there and I have to stop and it's 3:20, what the fuck it, look at my phone. But you know what? No, don't be, because it's dumbing down the students if you're going to pull the stupid clocks. Just keep the fucking clock up there and get yourself an asshole clock with no numbers. Do that shit too. And then ban phones in your classroom. That's what you need to do. Say no phones in the classroom. You got to learn to read the fucking time on the wall clock that doesn't even have numbers on it. Bitches. All right. Woman delivers baby after watching a YouTube tutorial. This one tripped me out. All right. So, this leads into my YouTube doctorisms. A Tennessee woman was forced to give birth in a hotel bathtub in Istanbul while flying to Germany. The woman, who only recently discovered she was 6 months pregnant, watched YouTube videos to figure out what she needed to do to deliver her baby successfully. Now, this is both awesome and crazy and mildly funny, because it amounted to, she did not trust the hospitals in Istanbul. She literally got flight held over excessively long, so she had to stay in Istanbul when she was flying to Turkey for whatever the hell reason. Never mind the fact that she was 6 months pregnant and only recently found out that she was pregnant. Seriously, you did not know for 6 months that you were pregnant. That's a whole other thing. But, you know what? Bravo to her, because she she didn't freak out. She was like, you know what? It's like, I gotta do this. This is gonna happen. So she sat there watching YouTube videos on, okay, here's what I need to have. And basically parked it in the hotel bathtub and took care of it. And was like, okay, here's the breathing, and here's the thing, and here's all of this and this and this. Tied off I think she's like a shoestring, or I forgot the hell she used. I don't have it directly in front of me. What she used to tie off the umbilical cord and all that, and took care of her shit. Bravo on that one, because of all this, it's going to get worse. But this one had a positive spin. She ended up getting a 2-week free stay courtesy. What they say? What do they call that? When it's not a birthday, but basically like a push day or whatever I think they call it. Present for mom for having the baby. So the hotel, it's like, and I should say, after she had the baby, then she calls down and and they take her to the hospital and have her and the baby checked out. But it was one of those things where she didn't, it's so bad. It's basically meant she didn't trust the hospitals in Turkey. She was like, I don't know the facility. I don't know this. I'm just going to do this myself. I'm like, no, get your ass to a hospital. But she did it, and she successfully, delivered her baby, healthy baby. And they got checked out at the hospital. They said, yep, everything's good. All right. And the hotel, and they basically gave her 2-week free stay before it was, so I guess until it was safe for her and the baby to travel again. So crazy, but that one's pretty awesome. Moving right along, it is much less awesome. This one made me cringe. A woman takes out her own breast implants using a box cutter and a YouTube tutorial. So a woman in the UK with size F breast implants decided she no longer wanted to have them, but could not afford the $4,000 removal surgery. So after reading up on the procedure and watching videos on YouTube, she used an ice pack and a box cutter to remove her unwanted silicone implants. Ow. Let me repeat that. Ow. How desperate. Holy shit. So it just amounted to she got older. She really hated her implants that she got when she was younger. And again, it's a silicone implants. So she's had these for a while because silicone was banned for decades. So and she was, I think she was in her 50s, if I'm remembering correct. Yeah. So there's an older woman with size F silicone. These were huge. And she was like, I don't want these anymore. I can't afford to have them removed professionally. And I guess they had even hey, these are damaging, kind of a public service sort of thing where they would do surgeries and operations and things like this. If it's for your, mental health and things like that. And she was like, it's causing depression. It's emotionally traumatizing for me now having these. And it was she got on the list, but it was one of those, it was going to take so long before she could have the surgery. She couldn't wait anymore. but she basically used a ton of ice packs, completely numbed the area just using ice packs, and that's just terrifying. And then used a box cutter, which I'm hoping she sterilized, like alcohol or something, but used a box cutter and cut along the scar from her original surgery and just kept cutting and cutting until she reached it. And apparently she punctured one of the implants in the process, but she did it. And she packed, she cut along the scar, squeezed out the implants, and then packed the area packed it to stop the bleeding, and, ice and everything. And after she did all that, then she called 911, or I guess I don't know what it is in England, but then she called emergency services and they took her to the hospital and checked her out, and she lost a lot of blood. But according to the story, she apparently did, they flushed out the openings and that was it. They said, according to the article, they sent her home without even stitching her up. That she apparently at least did that good of a job, or whatever the hell she did. They managed to, she's like, they didn't even stitch her up. They probably put that medical tape on her. But yeah, ow. That is just crazy. And according to the article, that's only ever been done successfully one other time. So, ow and damn, and why would you do that to yourself? I understand wanting to take them out. I fully understand it. I have a friend from high school who had a reduction surgery done in high school. I think I've talked about her before. I understand that there are women who, especially when they get breast implants and then regret it later. Yeah, I got these when I was 20. I looked great when I was 20. It made me feel better about myself when I was 20. Now that I'm 50 and I'm a grandma, I don't want these things on my body anymore. Get them off of me. And I understand that. But you know what? And I understand it was a lot of money. Ice packs and box cutters are not the way to have that done. I'd say there's so many other ways, but you know what? You can't necessarily trust those ways. And I guess if you're going to go shady maneuvers, doing it yourself is probably the most trustworthy. At least she can trust herself. That's all I can really give her. All right, one more crazy YouTube person. Not so much a YouTube person, but really not qualified for this. Woman turns to unlicensed friend for cheap filler injections. So, I would say Botox, but I guess you could say how the Kardashians and lip fillers, and you get cheek fillers and shit like this to accentuate your cheekbones and puff up your lips or whatever the shit people do. I don't. Why the hell would I get lip fillers? Anyway, a Russian woman who wanted to get cosmetic facial fillers decided that instead of going to a trained professional, she would just have her friend do it. Her friend is an accountant. This isn't even oh yeah, I'm a nurse and I do this on the side. I'm not licensed for this, but I know how to do it. No, her friend's a fucking accountant. Because of Russian plastic surgery. So her friend injected an unknown amount of an unknown filler into her face, resulting in extreme swelling and multiple ruptures of her lips. So she did all these facial, and you see the pictures, or they're sitting there injecting and injection, and pop them in a bunch of little spots. And you know what? A plastic surgeon knows how to do that and how to, how to control the flow and what the fuck they're injecting into your face. And when they're they're gonna inject your lips and they're gonna make them look, and they're gonna look a little puffy right now, but when the swelling goes down, you're gonna look fabulous, and you're gonna have Angelina Jolie's lips. You're gonna look wonderful. Not in this case. She might as well have been, injecting her face with rubber cement because they didn't know what the fuck they stuck in her face. And they didn't know how much. All I know is that her face started swelling up like a friggin' melon. And, oh yeah, it ruptured in her lips and just imagine those words. Ruptured your lips. Just think of that. I don't need to describe it. Let your imagination color that picture for you. Fucking idiot. And I'm going to tell you right now, this lady, up until this morning, was my jackass of the week. She was. Because not only did she get, basically black market facial fillers, but she got, basically black market facial fillers from somebody who's not even a doctor. Not even a shady doctor. Not even a nurse. Not a fucking accountant. Your accountant friend gave you facial. If my stepmom is a maternity nurse, I would trust her to give me surgery or give me facial fillers or give me something like that before I would trust my accountant. Not that I have one. Why would you trust your accountant friend? I wouldn't trust an accountant friend to give me a tattoo, let alone facial fillers. This is full-blown plastic surgery. This is above removing your implants. This is above delivering your own baby. You let somebody with no medical, expertise whatsoever inject whatever the hell into your face. And you had any expectation of it going well. Nope. You a dumb bitch. Again, Russian plastic surgery. But again, I just said, this was the jackass of the week. Until about 2 hours ago, where I was given a story by my SMF brother, Chris the Mole Man, that this is as current as it can get. So let's jump into a man that just his presence in the news gives him the honor of being the jackass of the week. George Zimmerman allegedly threatened to feed a private investigator to an alligator. This guy. Alright. George Zimmerman. If you remember, this is the guy who shot and killed Trayvon Martin. It was back in 2012. Personally, he was acquitted of murder. He claimed, it was the stand your ground law and all that stuff. Basically, big over glorified, rather than self-defense, it's you have a right to defend yourself with deadly force. And if you feel like you're being threatened, whatever. So this guy has been in and out of the news I think he's not allowed to own guns but he's been back and forth with police issues and this dude thinks that he can do whatever the fuck he wants. And you didn't necessarily know that at the time of the trial. And I think if this guy had the track record he does in the media now, he would have been convicted. But he basically was contacted by an investigator who is doing a documentary, incidentally being backed by Jay-Z, into the Trayvon Martin killing. And so, of course, he wants to talk to the guy who was acquitted of killing him. At which point, apparently George Zimmerman started stalking the guy and left somewhere around 50 phone calls and over 60 text messages and over 30 voicemails in about the course of a year. And at one point said that anyone who fucks with my family will be fed to an alligator. End quote. And apparently he also said, I know how to handle people who fuck with me, and I have since 2012. And that's one of those things where, if Double Jeopardy weren't in play, you could say that it was, an admission of guilt. Everybody knows he killed the guy. He killed the kid. That's never been in question. It's been a matter of, was it self-defense? Was it justifiable? Blah, blah, blah. Personally, and I know it's kind of a controversial opinion, technically the guy didn't break any laws. That's the deal. Oh boy, the laws were written in Florida. He did not do anything illegal. He didn't, first degree murder. He didn't see this kid and like, he entered into an altercation which turned deadly. That's what happened. He did not commit a crime, but in the course of his stupidity, a kid died. So that is that. So for all those reasons, yes, he had to be acquitted. He didn't actually break the law. I realize it is kind of a controversial opinion. It's not even an opinion. It is just kind of a statement of the facts of the case. Doesn't mean the guy wasn't a dumbass. Doesn't mean the guy isn't a piece of shit who I'm really hoping eventually something catches up to this guy, because this guy's been a complete asshole since that case. He's been getting he's had issues back and forth with the law and the media and a ton of trouble since. The fact that this guy isn't in prison for something else by now, I'm really hoping something's going to stick to this guy. He's kind of this generation's OJ. He did it. He got away with it. And now it's just a matter of what's going to be the thing to throw him in jail. What's going to be the thing that actually sticks. But yeah, really, dude, when you're already known for fucking killing somebody, and it's known you killed somebody, and you've had the kind of track record with shit since that case, like just because you were acquitted of murder does not mean that you can go around threatening people who, oh yeah, have ties to the police and the media, you dumb fuck. Anytime this dude, you see this guy's name, he's doing something else monumentally stupid. Like threatening to feed someone to an alligator, cause you're a dumb fuck. So if he were, I would say if you were in the media more enough, I gave more of a shit about this asshole, I could declare George Zimmerman the fucking jackass of the decade. And I could probably say that now, even though there's still a couple of years left to go. Other people may have their opinions because of political climate, as they say. The way people think about other people in positions. Personally, I think George Zimmerman tops them all, jackass. So, George Zimmerman, you are not only, I'm saying it now, you're not only the jackass of the week, you are the jackass of the decade. So let's take one more quick promo break, and I will be back with this week's recommended listening feature, We Watched a Thing.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Justin. We are the Epic Film Guys, and we'd like just a moment of your time to talk about an extremely important event coming up this May.
Last year, we hosted the Live Stream for the Cure, a 12-hour live stream fundraiser where we raised $2,500 for the Cancer Research Institute. 86
cents out of every dollar raised goes to research toward finding a cure.
And this year, we're aiming to smash that goal, and we need your help to do it.
Join us from May 18th through the 20th for 30 hours of amazing live stream content from us and a whole host of amazing podcasters who will be joining us to try to reach $5,000.
For more information, please visit www.livestreamforthecure.com. Together, we can make a difference.
You ready to jump?
I don't know. Jump where?
All up in that pod stuff.
Wait, what's a pod stuff?
The Pod Stuff is a weekly podcast hosted by Perry and Lindsay Johnson.
Oh, those ones that host Hello Like WTF?
That's the ones. Pod Stuff is defined as anything to do with podcasting.
So like podcasts?
Yes.
Interviewing podcasters?
Yes.
What about reviewing host services?
I would assume.
Industry professionals?
Mm-hmm.
equipment.
Yep, for sure.
What about more than that?
Oh, hell yeah, there's a lot more than that.
So you're telling me listeners can tune in and hear not only interviews with their favorite podcasts, but they can also hear from podcast experts? Well, where do I pay for all this?
What I'm telling you is all of this is for the low, low price of nothing. Just subscribe and download our weekly show on Podbean or at iTunes, and you will be there.
But wait, what if I am a listener who wants to make a recommendation? Or maybe I'm a podcaster, or I'm a podcast expert, podcast service, or equipment provider. How do I get involved?
Well, it's as easy as following at the Pod Stuff on Twitter and sending a direct message. Or if Twitter's not your game, you can join the group on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/thepodstuff, or you can email thepodstuff@gmail.com. The Podstuff exists to passionately promote you and things that you love.
Man, that sounds awesome.
So let me ask you again. Are you ready to jump?
I'm totally in. You think everyone else will be?
I don't know. Why don't we ask them? Hey, listeners.
Are you ready to jump? All up in that pod stuff?
Recommended listening. So, this week's recommended feature is We Watched a Thing, which is formerly Bears on Film. And normally I would have a clip for you, a promo or something that I could play as kind of an example. But unfortunately, I did not have the time between when I decided this was going to be the feature and recording time. I thought that I was going to just be able to pull it from the regular, sort of promos where I normally get them, but unfortunately they didn't have it in any of those places that I normally get the promos from. So I'm sorry guys, I'm not able to play your promo. If you're listening, and because I'm going to tag them in the post, I'm sure they'll hear this. Send me your promo and I will stick it in to next week's show. But right off, We Watched a Thing, again, formerly Bears on Film, is a weekly podcast in which best friends Billy and Toffer, a visual effects artist and a cameraman, catch up and talk about a film they watched that week. With a wealth of film knowledge, a love of cinema, and a humorous style, find out what we've watched this week and what we thought about it. So, it's another movie podcast. And I've covered a lot of movie podcasts. And again, the live stream for The Cure is being put on by the Epic Film guys. A lot of their friends and a lot of their contacts are movie podcasts. And that's fine. And it's kind of like I've said with a lot of other shows. You can listen to 20 different pop culture podcasts. It's the hosts. It's the style. It's the delivery. And We Watched a Thing. It's funny because We Watched a Thing doesn't roll off the tongue as easily as Bears on Film. Bears on Film easily rolls off the tongue. It's a very smooth name. And I looked up what happened to it's in their little about page on wewatchedathing.com. But it basically says that the name kind of came from, they're two big hairy guys, bears. I remember seeing way back when they started the show in one of the Facebook groups, them asking about, do you think we should change our name? Because it's kind of got a certain connotation. And if you aren't aware, bear is generally a name, it's a name kind of for great big hairy gay men. As far as I know, they're not gay. And I don't know if that was something that was kind of on their mind, but according to their about page, essentially Bears on Film was a popular name. They couldn't get the .com, they couldn't get the Twitter handle, they couldn't get a lot. It was a very common name already. And so they just kind of, it was just kind of a name they threw out there originally, and it didn't stick. And so they changed it, which is great. Fine. You know, they're even in Hello Life WTF changed their name. That is not the original name of that show. A lot of shows change their name for or creative things, or hey, I didn't just The Mole Man Show has changed its name 3 times. He basically still does the same show, but he's changed his name. All that aside, about the show. So, like I said, they watch a movie. They talk about a movie. And you say, well, what's so different about that? The difference is these guys actually work in the film industry. They're from Australia, which is part of why I didn't have time to reach out to them. And normally if I can't find the promos myself, I'll reach out to them. Hey, can you send me a promo or a clip or something that I can play on the show for your feature? Because I decided to feature them last night. Had I emailed them last night, I probably could have gotten something this morning because of time difference. At this point, they're waking up. When I set up this morning, they would have been waking up. Maybe, I don't know what their hours are. They might be like, they might not wake up until 1 p.m. because I don't know what their hours are like. But they, time difference. Again, they're in Australia. And unlike the other Australian podcasts I've covered, I'm not going to say they don't swear, but they swear a lot less. And their accent is much milder. It is not as aggressive as anybody in Sans Pants or the New Man or Gareth and Bex or the guys from the Countdown, who have drastically, all of them, these different shows and all the different people on them have very different accents. But I've noticed that Billy and Toffer have much milder accents. Not that really matters, but it's interesting because the way they look at a movie, they've kind of got that insider perspective on it. And the last 2 episodes that I listened to, they did, was it Unsane? Which is that like kind of psychological, supposed to be like a psychological horror movie, that was all shot using iPhones. And then, what the hell else was, Infinity War. And because one is a visual effects artist and one is a cameraman. And so they're sitting there and they very heavily critique the visual effects and the camera work. And it was funny because the first thing they said about Unsane was, this movie looks like shit. This movie looks like, they're like, it looks like shit. You filmed it on iPhones, but you didn't stylize it as if it was filmed on iPhones. You just did it that way. And so, they critique them. And I don't think it's the intention of them to critique the show from a movie professional's perspective, but you can't take that out of them. It's like, that's just the filter of their mind. That's what they know. And so that's part of what's going to color their opinion of a movie. That being said, they do a great job and they're very straightforward with their critiques, and it's not a lot of filler. Whereas a lot of other movie shows have a lot of filler. Not to single out like the Epic Film guys, but like the Epic Film guys and Netflix and Swill and the Super Movie Bros and a lot of other shows, they'll do movie news. They'll do, banter back and forth. How was your day? And all that sort of stuff. What's been going on? We're doing this and this and this and this, whatever. Drinking segments, all that. They do all these other things and kind of pad their show. And they end up with 1.5 hour, 2 hour long shows, when ultimately it's about, if you took the main core content, hey, we're talking about this movie this week. That's 30 minutes. That's basically what these guys do. They just have that core content. It's, we're here to talk about this movie. Let's talk about this movie. And they do it. And it's very straightforward. So if you like that no nonsense, not a lot of bullshit to it, it's a great show. Because, like, really, if you want a movie review, you want the movie review. You don't necessarily want to know. You don't want 30, 40 minutes of filler and other stuff. And if you want that other stuff, there are plenty of shows for that. But if you just want the review, this is a great show to go to, because they no bullshit. They get right down to it. This week we are talking about Avengers Infinity War. And yeah, they have their opinions and they have some stuff, but they pretty much stay on track and they stick to the subject. And honestly, it's the first movie podcast that I've listened to that's like that. And not to say that they don't, like make comments and have their personal opinions and make jokes and things like that. They're funny and they are funny, and it's a good combination of it without being over the top, without like feeling like the jokes are forced or like they're obviously not trying to do a comedy show. They're doing a show about movies. Very, on topic. But that doesn't mean you can't make a joke about the movie and you can't take a crack at each other about, say, one of them not liking Benedict Cumberbatch or how much it seems that everybody wanted Tony Stark to die in the Infinity War. Seen that everybody wanted Stark dead. That's rude. But making these kind of jokes or criticizing Unsane for looking like a high school media class project. Even though there's like, yeah, the movie could have had potential, but but it looked like shit. And again, everything's kind of painted with that. They work in the industry, so they can sit there and they can justifiably criticize things like, no, this looks like shit. Like, what the fuck do you know, man? How do you know how hard it is to do this? Well, he fucking knows how hard it is to do this. He knows good effects from bad effects. And he knows, bad filming and good. Like, this is why did you film it this way? Things like that. They can criticize those things and they're fair in their criticisms. But it's definitely different from everything else I've listened to. It's a good show and it's really worth checking out. So if you want that sort of movie review show, no filter, no extra padding, no BS, just straight up, we watched a thing and this is what we thought of it from people in the industry. Check it out. We Watched a Thing at wewatchedathing.com. But that is going to do it for me this week. Thank you so much for putting up with my weirdness. You can catch all of the past episodes and subscribe to the show or follow me on all the social medias at oddadoutpodcast.com. And if you want to support the show because you're awesome like that, consider donating on Patreon or just buying an Odd Dad Out t-shirt or mug or whatever the hell you feel like. Every bit of it just goes to helping make this show better and getting my wife off my back because, podcasting costs money. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm really going to try and get the Epic Film Guys stuff coming up next week. Remember, go to livestreamforthecure.com, get your early donations in, or tune in during my segment on May 20th. And until next week, I've been Adam Higgins, the Odd Dad Out. Thank you, and good night.